Lee C. Camp here. If you've been enjoying this show, I think you might enjoy my podcast, No Small Endeavor, produced by Great Feeling Studios and PRX. No Small Endeavor explores what it means to live a good life. We sit down with courageous, impassioned people like actor Martin Sheen or civil rights hero James Lawson to ask what it means to live a life worth living. Follow No Small Endeavor wherever you get your podcasts. Living a good life is no small endeavor, and we would love to help.
It's back to the books time on campuses all over the country, and you can bet that some of the brand new students get that last-minute dose of second thoughts. It's hard to fathom, but Candice Lee, the charismatic athletic director at Vanderbilt, begged her dad to turn around on the drive to Nashville 30 years ago from Alabama. She was a top recruit and a scholarship athlete, but it would take some adversity to build the kind of confidence she now exudes in a still very male-dominated job, one where the average fan often thinks they know better.
It is so interesting that people can look at athletics and believe they know your job because they like sports. They don't understand the complexities of it. It's complex, and it's becoming even more complex when you think about the economic model and how it's changing with student athletes and the governance structure. And there are just so many things. And so to show up every day with a great just disposition and energy and focus on young people, despite what anybody else says, I don't know how you can't get excited about that.
Candice sees the game of life intertwined in everything from intramural fun to playoffs and national championships, which she says are coming sooner than anyone may think. I'm Demetria Kaladimos. It's Banner and Company. Well, Candice, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
If my math is correct, this marks the 30th anniversary of you stepping onto the Vandy campus, right, as a student.
That's right. In just a few weeks, that will be, oh my goodness. Yes, 30 years.
Do you recall what you were thinking that first week?
Oh, I do. I mean, I was just hanging out with my parents, and we laugh about this all the time, like, when it was time to come to Nashville. And short drive, 100 miles. My parents were in Madison, Alabama, right outside of Huntsville. It was the longest 100 miles for me because I had been excited all summer about coming to Vanderbilt, and I started to panic. And my dad and I laugh about this because we had two vehicles that were packed up with all my stuff, and I was riding in the truck with him, and I was just begging him to turn around. And I'm like, just turn around. Like, this is a mistake. I don't want to leave home. I'll go anywhere right here. Like, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out later. He's like, you're going to Vanderbilt. I'm like, I don't want to. So we jokingly say, he said, I could have gotten off that exit and your entire life would have been different.
Absolutely.
But I didn't. I kept going. And so we say the exit not taken really changed my life.
Now, I read that you were already like 6'2" in middle school.
Yes.
Oh, that must not have been fun.
I think back on it now, and my parents did a great job of encouraging me to stand up straight and be proud of who you are. But, it's hard as a kid. And basketball really saved my confidence because it became an advantage to be so tall. I finally figured it out because before then I just felt awkward and still felt awkward in basketball, but realized like being tall was a strength and other people thought it was a strength. And so now I'm so grateful to stand up straight, but it took me a while to learn to love it.
Were you or are you a natural athlete?
No. I became a pretty good basketball player. I would not say a natural athlete. And I tried so many things. I tried volleyball. I tried softball. They didn't quite take. So I love that question because there is a distinction between being a great athlete and being a pretty good basketball player. I was the latter.
But I've heard that you didn't visit or really entertain offers from other schools after you got an offer from Coach Foster, right?
That's right.
What sealed the deal?
Fortunate enough to have a lot of offers, but I've always been a person that went on gut, and my gut was just, nothing grabbed me. So I was going to make a decision. I would have made a decision eventually, but I really wanted my heart to be grabbed. And when I came to elite camp, I guess that was the summer of '95, before my senior year in high school, I just fell in love with the place. I really did. The women on the team were incredible. I found them to be, well, first of all, they were all so tall, and they seemed so regal to me. They seemed to be quite proud of their height, and they had this edge about them that was so appealing. Like, they just represented strength to me. Of course, I knew what the academic reputation of Vanderbilt was, and education's always been really important in our family, and to me, it just checked every box. It wasn't that far from home. I knew that it was not going to be easy for me. I felt like it was going to be a place that could challenge me, but would also wrap that challenge in support and love. And I thought, even at, 15, 16 years old, understood that'd probably be a great place to grow. So I didn't know I was going to be offered a scholarship at the end of that camp, but I didn't even think about it. I didn't talk to my parents. I said yes on the spot. And maybe that's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
I would think so. The team, though, was top notch at that point.
Yes. They had been to a Final Four in '93, so a couple of years before, and I had been, of course, watching, of course, knew who all those women were. And truly, like, they were operating at a very high standard. So that part was easy to say yes to. What an incredible opportunity.
Yeah. But you get injured pretty quick.
Almost immediately. Yes. I tore my ACL in high school prior to coming, and then was still rehabilitating it my freshman year. Ended up with a stress fracture at one point during the freshman year, had a blood clot at one point. It started off with some adversity. Healed and got back out on the court. And then my fifth year, because I ended up redshirting that first year, my fifth year, I tore the ACL in my other leg. And that would begin the first of 8 surgeries on that leg. Now, not all 8 while I was competing, but that definitely set me back. And I ended up getting a 6th year of eligibility, which is a pretty common thing now, but it was not common then. Just learned a lot from being injured, because you have to figure out, your identity as an athlete is like your ability to compete. It's tied to your ability to compete. And I didn't have that. And when I did get it back, it was quite limited. So, the task that I had was, how do you find value? How do you reframe your identity? How do you learn to be a leader and a good teammate and a contributor when physically you are not as capable? And so humbling for me. And yet I'm so grateful, because I think it defines presently the way that I lead.
I would think so. You can relate to someone that gets that bad break, pardon the pun.
That's right.
And all of a sudden their whole world seems like it's crushed.
We talk all the time about athletics, the lessons in athletics being transferable to real life. And so we're talking, right, literally about a break, like you break your leg or you tear your ACL on a court. But the reality is that in life, people all the time deal with, you have a plan and then something changes. Yeah. And so how will you react and respond to that? And, the way that we react to that then contributes to our resilience. And I'm really thankful for that. Some lessons have to be learned the hard way, but I feel like it has allowed me to show more grace to other people and to meet them where they are on their journey, whether they're student athletes or coaches or staff members or faculty or other community members. So that's really been a blessing for me.
medically, have all the knee things improved drastically since back then? Because, I mean, Lindsey Vonn, the skier, I couldn't believe what turned out to be a bad decision, got back on those skis with a torn ACL.
So I have had a number of issues particularly with my left knee. So I had my first knee replacement on that knee in 2019. They have had to go back in 5 times because I just had some complications. So thankfully, I'm now a year removed from my most recent surgery, and I'm doing so much better, walking without a limp, walking unassisted. So really, really grateful for that.
Now, when you started getting these postgraduate degrees, again, staying at Vanderbilt the whole time, no temptation to try something else?
Yes. I mean, it is interesting. I'm glad you asked the question, because I do think people assume that I would never leave or didn't have the opportunity to leave. That's not true, but there were a couple things that kept me here. So one, I was just really fortunate at Vanderbilt to continue to be challenged. So whether it was my very first opportunity as an intern or opportunities that came later, I was getting opportunities that you typically have to move for. Uh-huh. And so that was just a blessing. I mean, I didn't know. I never, ever thought I'd be at Vanderbilt this long, just being honest. And the place just kept challenging me / giving me opportunities and supporting me, right? All at the same time. Once I got married, as you make decisions and you weigh options, you have to do kind of what's best for your family. And so my husband and I would sit down and talk about those things. And there were probably 2 or 3 times, 2 times for sure, but maybe a third time that I seriously considered leaving. And it's just that what was in front of me at Vanderbilt, or potentially in front of me at Vanderbilt, and the opportunities to continue to grow and be nurtured, it was just better for me than leaving.
There will be some people listening that don't understand. They've heard the job athletic director in a million different ways, but they don't understand really what it is. Is it the CEO of sports? What is it?
It is. That's a great way to describe it. The CEO of sports within a university. And so, as the athletic director, so I serve as the athletic director and also as a vice chancellor. So as a vice chancellor, you're one of the general officers for the university, and we all report directly to the chancellor. That's really important. I credit David Williams for really creating the template where the athletic director also sits at the table of central administration. It's really important because you're so clearly tied to institutional mission. And so just ensuring that you have a seat at the table has been, I think, really favorable for Vanderbilt. And now you're starting to see that model all over the country. But I'm in charge of hiring and unfortunately firing when necessary coaches, and my other direct reports. I'm responsible for about 425 student athletes and a budget that exceeds about $150 million.
Whoa.
I have close to 300 staff members. And I'm also responsible for, when we talk in that capacity, we're talking about NCAA varsity sports, right? We have 17 of them. I'm also responsible for club sports, intramurals, the David Williams Rec Center. So I actually love that, because on one hand, we're talking about the elite of the elite when it comes to student athletes and competing at the highest level, but also ensuring that our entire student body has access to recreational and fitness opportunities. And for someone who loves to serve, that speaks to my heart that I'm able to, to just be a part of student life in that way too.
What's the funkiest club sport that you were not necessarily aware of?
I had no clue that ultimate frisbee was a thing. I did not know about that.
It's a big Nashville thing.
It's a big Nashville thing. I had a young man come meet with me. He was very passionate about it. I did not know. The thing about club sports too is that, they're only as vibrant as the students in that year, right? So you might have a club sport that 10 years ago, the student body was very passionate about it. And then maybe it lies dormant for a while until that next class comes in and they get really excited about it. So, we do have some that are like our rugby program, our rowing program. They are deeply committed. Those ties run really, really deep, whereas other programs kind of come and go. But I did not know about ultimate frisbee, but I will tell you, I deeply respect just athletes at every level. in every sport. And I just think you can learn something no matter what. So I'm learning a lot, and it's been a lot of fun.
It's Banner and Company. I'm Demetria Kaladimos. We'll be right back. When we launched Banner and Company more than a year ago, we wanted to help you get to know your Nashville neighbors. One of the best ways to know a neighborhood is to tap into the experience of a realtor or two who really know the city and the region. Richard Courtney and Lisa Peebles are a pair to draw to, as they say. Kind of like matchmakers, they have the experience and relationships to connect you with people and homes that best serve your personality and your lifestyle. And with more than $1 billion sold, you can bet you'll be in good company. To connect with Richard Courtney and Lisa Peebles, visit NashvilleLuxuryEstates.com. Clark Lea calls you the best leader he's ever worked for. I mean, that is great praise, but what impressed you about him to know that he was the person that could turn Vanderbilt football around, seemingly?
I'm so glad that you brought Clark Lea up, and there's so many things I want to say. I'll start by saying,
first of all, no relation.
No relation. It's so funny because people then end up spelling my name Lea. Yeah. They spell him Lee. Whenever we have like apparel that has CL on it, we both think it belongs to us. It can get confusing. And our birthdays are 2 days apart.
Wow.
So we're both like tried and true Scorpios. So when I became the athletic director, one of the first things that I did was I made a change with our football coach. And that was tough for me because I'm a big fan of Derek Mason and had been his sport administrator for several years and felt strongly that it was time to make a change. But I am just like a couple months into the job, a few months into the job. And, I knew that if we're going to give ourselves a chance, we had a lot of investments that we need to make. We needed to make investments in facilities. We needed to make investments in infrastructure and operations. And you have to have a leader that's going to inspire. And it's not just being about an inspirational leader, but you also, of course, you need to be a tactician. You need to be a content expert. You need to believe in the values. Like, there are just so many things that truly make the perfect head coach for Vanderbilt. Right? The perfect head coach for Vanderbilt. So I set out to begin interviewing. And, at the time, right, that's 6 years ago. So the only thing I have to sell is a dream and some pictures on a paper. We had not put a shovel in the ground. I did not have a historical reference to show you. I mean, James Franklin had 3 good years when he was here. And Derek Mason definitely had some highlights. So that's true. But we had not been able to demonstrate the consistency that you would think would attract kind of your upper echelon coaches, right? And so I knew I was going to have to show people, convince people to believe in a vision that I didn't have any concrete evidence of yet. And I firmly believe that while, yes, when you go on a mission, a search to find a head coach, you're going to have to do some recruiting, but not begging, because I think the successful candidate needs to see what I see and believe in that and want to lock arms from the very beginning, not begging, right? Because if I got to beg you now, I'm going to have to beg you a year from now. And instead, I want you to be as excited as I am about what's possible. So I go into the search with that in mind. Was pleasantly surprised that there were a number of coaches that were interested. There were sitting head coaches that were interested, successful coaches who were interested in this job. And I knew of Clark. Clark and I I think when Clark transferred to Vanderbilt, I was just finishing my 6th year. So we did not necessarily overlap, but knew who he was and had followed him. You know who Vanderbilt alums are, who are doing great things. And he was doing great things, in the industry, and knew he was going to be a head coach one day. So he, of course, was on my list. But the very first conversation I had with him, I'm like, man, this guy is impressive. And it didn't take long to identify that he was the right person. I mean, quite frankly, I think I knew it immediately. And our chancellor, once we arranged for Chancellor Dearmeyer to meet with Clark, I mean, he too felt the same way. And so I remember when I called Clark to offer him the job, it was so important to me that he knew, man, you're not getting this job because you're a Vanderbilt alum or because you're from Nashville. That's just bonus. I mean, that's cool. And we can market that, that can become part of the story, but you earned this job. I mean, that guy I found him to be very impressive 6 years ago, not knowing that he was going to evolve to just another level. I mean, the level that he's operating at now is it's incredible. And I always thought he was incredible. He has a very strong sense of purpose. He's deeply committed to young people. I love how thoughtful and cerebral he is. He's a very, very analytical thinker. He's not, we joke because sometimes on recruiting visits, he reads poetry with visiting like prospective student athletes.
Does that freak them, a few of them out?
No, these kids love it. They love it. And, if you go into Clark's office, he loves to read, and I love that. I love to read too, so we're always talking about books, but he has multiple copies of the same book on his shelf because if he's talking to you and there's like a connection, he loves, like, that's kind of his love language, like to like give books. And I just thought, man, this guy is just so incredible. Like, to me, he models what I think of when I think of the best coaches. They are teachers, they are parents, they are leaders in just every way. And he also, the thing about Clark is, and I mean, I can say this across the board with our coaches, but the thing about Clark is he's so confident, but he's so coachable. There is this sense of humility, which is always going to give you a chance to grow, right? When as long as you believe you know everything, you're not going to get very far. But this guy is open to growth and learning, and he's so vulnerable. I know that vulnerability with me is a result of us building trust. But, there's a real sense that we know each other. And, I think my job as the athletic director is to clear a path and to provide the resources to remove impediments. And I have just, he'll tell you that I knew the job was going to be harder than he knew. So he came in with a little bit of naivete. I didn't have that. I knew that for this thing to be built the way that we wanted it to be built, it was not going to happen overnight. And he was a little more naive than that. And I'm so proud of him because, and not in like I don't mean it I'm proud for him because he's had the courage to adapt where he needed to adapt and to adjust and yet still be true to who he is. I think he's remarkable. I'm very humbled by the comments. He was at media days and what you opened with were him saying I was the best leader that he had been around. That I was very emotional when I heard that. It really touched me, and I reached out to him. And in fact, I said, well, next time I see you, I just want to give you a hug. No words, but I want you to understand that he doesn't have to say that about me. I don't expect him to use his platform to shine a light on me. But there's something very, very meaningful about this football coach using his platform to talk about me as a woman, as a leader, right? Like, it doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
Some men wouldn't do that. Some people wouldn't do that. And it just touched my heart. It really did. And so before I came here, I actually walked into his office and he was, I asked his assistant, is Clark in there? Oh, yeah, he's just talking. I walked in there and It's the first time we've seen each other since the text exchange we had. Just a big hug, no words. And the person he was talking to, he said, you have no idea what this means. Oh. And then we didn't say anything else. And I got in the car and drove over here. But he means a lot to me because I know that, especially as an alum, these jobs are hard because you're doing them in the public eye.
I was going to say the amount of judgment.
The amount of judgment. It's kind of incredible. I mean, so certainly on one hand, we can't celebrate fandom and then not take kind of the downside with it too, right? I mean, you have to take both ends of the spectrum, but it is so interesting that people can look at athletics and believe they know your job because they like sports. They don't understand the complexities of it. It's complex, and it's becoming even more complex when you think about the economic model and how it's changing with student athletes and the governance structure. And there are just so many things. And so to show up every day with a great just disposition and energy and focus on young people, despite what anybody else says, I don't know how you can't get excited about that. And I watch Clark do that every single day.
You know what, though? Now you guys have expectation, which hasn't been there, with all due respect, for sometimes decades at a time. That's added pressure, though, isn't it?
Honestly, I can understand you saying that, but to me, we've always had, so I can't speak to what, happened before me. But the idea that we're going to position ourselves to compete and win at the highest level, that's always been the standard.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned. Now, there's all kinds of reasons why we had not achieved at that level. And if you ask any of we have 14 head coaches, we have 17 sports because the way track is, we have 14 head coaches. You go ask the 14 head coaches, they will say that that's the standard. There is nobody that's going to put more pressure on us than we put on ourselves. But I would say that the pressure is less about if we do what we're supposed to do and we reach our potential, we're going to be fine. And that's how we feel about it.
It's Banner and Company, and my guest is Vanderbilt Athletic Director Candice Lee. We'll be right back. Is the nature of the student athlete different, though, now in this world of NIL and the chance to start making career money? Has that changed the personality of the competitor, of the young competitor?
So I would say that it has added other layers, right? But kids are still kids. So if you look at, so let me just try to answer it in a way. Has it impacted recruiting and maybe the way that you talk to young people? In some ways, sure. In some ways, sure. Now, when I was being recruited, there was no NIL, right? So that's not going to be a part of the recruiting conversation. That's not going to be a determining factor for me. And I would still say, I don't think young people are coming to Vanderbilt for money. They're getting paid. They are getting paid. But, I think that we are getting young people that maybe they wanted Vanderbilt, but they didn't think that they could win here. Or maybe they didn't see institutionally us making the investments required to show people that we're serious. I think there are a lot of reasons why we're getting the young people that we're getting. NIL, you can't have a competitive roster and not have NIL. So that is, now we're not out here outbidding everybody, but we're competitive with NIL. But I don't think that's the only reason why people are coming. But what I would say is that this is really important to me. Our student athletes are college students, right? They're part of this generation, the anxious generation, or all of the things that are being, and I don't want to loosely throw those terms around, but when you read about what young people are experiencing right now, well, some of them also play really good football. really good basketball, really good baseball and volleyball. So they're coming to us with the same anxieties and distractions and concerns that all young people that are 18 years old are. It just becomes a little bit more complex when you add on top of it, well, in some cases, and it's not the majority of our student athletes, so it's a small number of student athletes that will earn money that, maybe their parents will not earn over their lifetime. That is true. It's a small number though, but that is true. And so I don't know. I think it's really important to situate these young people as young people who happen to also be really, really good at sports. So I think I was just going to say this real quick. I think you could ask any leader in higher ed right now, and they would tell you the conversations that they have with young people are different now because times are different. You know what I'm saying?
How close are you with your old teammates? Do you still get
Very
together?
Close. Very close. Some of them some of them I talk to more than others, but I often see a number of them during reunion weekend or homecoming weekend. Just a few weeks ago, I had a teammate who had not been back on campus for several years, and she was in Nashville for a family reunion. And she has a daughter who I think her daughter is 7 now. And so the chance to show her and her husband and her daughter around, and for her daughter to see, like, here's where mommy played, and those times are just so rewarding. So I'm very close with my former teammates, though.
What are you not so good at on the field?
On the field,
do they force you to play golf, and are you good at that?
I do. No, I am great at socializing and driving the cart, but I will not, much to my father's chagrin, I do not play golf. I am, that's the thing. What's funny is that people do think,
they expect
as an
you to be
athletic
great.
director, you can just do all the things, right? And you probably know about, no, I don't. I stay in my lane very much. My lane tends to be more of a social lane when it comes to that kind of thing.
And I know you were recently mother of the groom.
Yes, that's right. My son got married in February. Mm-hmm. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm so excited to have a daughter-in-law. I'm so excited for our family to expand, and that's been wonderful.
Now, he wasn't an athlete.
In high school, he was not a college athlete.
Was that a disappointment?
Oh, not at all. No. I mean, I'm really fortunate. So Andrew is my stepson, and feel really fortunate to just be like a bonus parent for Andrew. And and I tell Andrew all the time, so blessed you have just more parents, more love.
Sure.
And I think that Andrew's mom and my husband did a wonderful job. Andrew came into my life when
how old were you? When
we got married, Andrew was 10. So, he and getting to be a part of his life at the age of 10 was such a blessing. But I think we all, from a co-parenting standpoint, I think did a great job of helping him understand that, we're going to be proud and just be a good kid. We're going to be proud of you no matter what you do. And it doesn't matter. He happens to love sports, but whether he played sports or not, it wouldn't have mattered to me as long as he's happy.
Yeah. You're a trailblazer, obviously. First woman of color in this gigantic position. I know that carries a lot of weight, but at the same time, it's got to feel satisfying that we've reached this level. And I say we, the female we.
I think that it is probably the best way to say yes. I mean, multiple things can be true, right? So it is true that I'm so proud as a woman to be in the role and to show that I hope it shows girls and women that, we can do anything, because this would have been something that was historically off limits to us. I also think it's unfortunate that we would be talking about me as a trailblazer in 2026, knowing that there are so many women out there who deserve opportunities. So I guess I would say I feel some mixed emotions, but I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
What are you excited about this year, besides all your sports? I mean, is there a secret story that you can kind of key us into at the moment, or someone that's come on a campus that you think is going to have a giant future?
That's an interesting question, because I'm going to tell you something that I see coaches do all the time. Coaches will, and they have to, right? They get asked questions all the time about who's going to contribute and
right.
how do you think this is going to shake out?
Who's your rising star?
Who's your rising star? Inevitably, there's always somebody that they did not account for who kind of came out the blue. And it's one of the things I love about sports, that for as predictable as some things are, there's always like a surprise. There's always an element you couldn't anticipate. And coaches are really good at saying, now so-and-so is going to play a lot and so-and-so is never going to help us. So-and-so probably isn't going to, and it doesn't ever hold true 100% of the time. And so I love that. So I'm going to tell you what I'm excited about is there are the things that I know are coming, but there are the things that I don't know that are coming that are going to be beautiful surprises. And whether that's like a young person who just finds their way finally, right? Or a coach who takes a big leap forward, a team that goes on a run. And there will inevitably be the things that we did not plan for that were not positive. These are young people. I want to tell you this really quick story that I'm a young person on our campus who's a freshman this year. And so he's just been on campus for a few weeks. And he said to me, I'm not going to say his name because it's going to be his story to share. But what I would say is I love getting to know these young people. And this young man a couple weeks ago said, oh, Miss Candice, I'm having trouble getting into the rec center. I love to bowl. He's not on the bowling team. The bowling team is a women's team, but I love to bowl, and I haven't been able to get in the bowling alley. And can you help me? And I'm out walking to my car, and we just run into each other. And you see these kids, and you're like, if you need anything, let me know. And that was his first question, like, can you help me get in the bowling alley? And I say, well, let the staff know. You're not even full time yet, so they probably just didn't turn your card on. There's probably some systems reason. And so I see him the next day, Miss Candice, I haven't been able to get in the bowling alley. I mean, it's so important to him. I'm a really good bowler and I need to get in the bowl. Okay. I let the staff know, figure out how to get him in the bowling alley. So I'm walking out the other day. I just finished having lunch with my husband who came and had lunch with me, and we're walking out. And I run into the young man. And he says, guess what? Oh, I'm like, how was your weekend? I introduced him to my husband. He says, guess what? I got a new bowling ball, and I also have been able to get in the rec, and I just been bowling. I'm like, well, that is wonderful. And I thought, well, finally, because it was so important to this kid. And then he stops, and he's got this, he's just going to be, I think, a favorite of everybody's as people get to know him. But he said, hey, did I ever tell you why bowling is so important to me? And I thought, shame on me, because I didn't know. It was clearly important to him, and I didn't know why. Well, why? And he says, well, when my brother died, I had no place to channel all that grief. He said, I was in such a low place in my life. And he said, my dad said, listen, you have got to channel this in a healthy way. So I want you to think of another sport. Just pick a sport. Just pick a sport that you can just give your energy to. And the kid's like, I'm like, he's sort of getting emotional talking about it, but then he laughs and he said, and my dad said, and don't pick golf because that's my sport. So he said, I just picked bowling. So he said, I started going to the bowling alley every day. I started to miss my brother. I would just bowl and bowl and bowl. And he said, and it changed my life. I also got pretty good at it. And I said, shame on me that I didn't ask you. It was so important to you. And I didn't ask you that. And so I said, that's why you had to get to a bowling alley. He said, yeah, I had to. And so I called our coaches, and they're like, oh man, we're going to have a team bowling outing, and we're going to do all this stuff, and we're going to, it just gives us a way to harness more support around this young man. But man, it's so cool what we get to do. It's hard. I'm in meetings all the time. We're making business decisions. We're saying yes, we're saying no, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm doing a lot. But the chance to get to know young people and their stories. So, some of these folks, you just see them a couple times a week on TV and you cheer for them and you get mad if they miss their free throws, or you're happy if we make the field goal. These are real people.
With
dealing
real problems.
real problems, real things, just like all of us.
Yeah.
And I love that story because also as a leader, sometimes you have to ask the next question so we can make sure that we're providing the support that's necessary so people can thrive. But also it's another reminder, like sports can be like life-giving for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One last question. I probably should have asked this sooner. We read about these satellite campuses now. Vanderbilt in California, Vanderbilt in New York, and one in Florida, I think? Or are you going to be allowed to recruit from those areas? There's not sports at these satellites.
Oh, we definitely recruit from those areas. But I'm glad you brought that up because, the Vanderbilt story, and I love that there's so much attention on athletics because athletics can be the front porch and I'm the first one preaching that. So that makes sense to me. But the story is really about how Vanderbilt University has taken off. And athletics is an important part of that. But there's a broader story about institutionally how we are amplifying our brand and what's happening. And it's just incredible. And as an alum, I'm so proud. As a staff member, I'm so proud. As a member of this community, I'm so proud because I think it's important for Nashville and beyond. But what I would say is, so yes, this campus in Nashville will always be our flagship. It will be the home base, our flagship campus. But the opportunity to go into other markets and do things that are best done in those markets, that's the chancellor's vision. Athletics will be the thread that keeps everything connected. So, for example, we recently announced that we're going to volleyball to play in New York in the Hammerstein Ballroom in September. Well, we'll have our first set of students on our New York campus, and that will be their first athletics event. So, we might have to take the athletics to them. But remember, I'm also responsible for recreational and fitness opportunities across our entire student body. So then we have to also make sure that we're creating those opportunities for young people that are on other campus, on other sites as well. So it's awesome. But yes, athletics is part of the story in that way.
You're going to be putting some miles on, more so than before.
We've been going and going, so it probably won't feel any different. Yeah.
Banner & Company is a production of the New Nashville Banner. This episode is produced by Steve Arush and edited by me. The original music is by Verlin Thompson. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or go to NashvilleBanner.com. You're in good company. Our final question is in the fishbowl.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of a little surprise here. You never know who posed it and how you might answer it.
From Michael Burcham. Oh, I adore Michael Burcham. If you
were told you had 6 months left, what would you change about what you're doing now?
Oh, what a great question. I'm so focused right now on, and I'm not a good one at celebration and recognition. I'm good. I try to be good for other people, but I usually don't stop and soak it in. I don't do a great job of that. And I think if I was told I had 6 months left, I think I might not be so focused on how are we going to make sure Vanderbilt athletics in 5 years and 15 years and 20 years. And I think I might do a better job of just appreciating what we've done so far. Two, making sure, and I hope I'm doing this, but boy, if I was told I had 6 months left, I would really want the people that I'm responsible for to know truly just how much I care for them, whether that's coaches or student athletes or staff. And I think it would change my conversations because I'd be focused on what's most important. And hopefully I have longer than 6 months left, but it's a sobering, beautiful reminder that I can still focus on what's most important. And so I deeply appreciate that question.